Hello, my friends, and welcome to another installment of Star Wars: The Story Of, the series where I explore the tales of those in a galaxy far, far away. In today's tale, we will be exploring the life of Plo Koon, and how this unassuming Keldor went on to become one of the most heroic Jedi Masters in the Order's history. Plo Koon was born on the dark and dusty plains of the planet Doran during the Great Peace era of the Galactic Republic. As with many powerful Jedi, Plo's sensitivity to the Force stemmed from a robust familial line, most notably in his unnamed uncle and his niece, Sha Koon, who herself would go on to survive Order 66 only to meet her end at the hands of Darth Vader. Very little is known about Koon's formative years at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, as neither his clan nor the logistics behind his performance in the Initiate trials have ever been documented. What is known is that he quickly built up a reputation for making quick and clear distinctions between right and wrong in life-threatening situations, often taking swift, decisive action with little or no thought to repercussions. This attitude, combined with Koon's sarcastic wit, often tried the patience of his master, the powerful Wookiee Council member Tyvaka. Following his elevation to knighthood, Plo sought to study the path of a Jedi Guardian, the warrior branch of the Jedi Order that focused primarily on the development of martial arts training over those of the Force. Despite this specialization, Koon was frequently praised for his mastery of the Force, more specifically in his use and application of various esoteric powers not typically associated with followers of the Jedi, such as Alter Environment, the Anya-Sef technique, and most controversially of all, Electric Judgment, which, as the name suggests, was a light-side variant of the insidious Sith Lightning technique. At some point during the year 44 BBY, a seat would open up on the Jedi High Council. Meaning atop the temple's spire, Tyvaka insisted that Koon be the one to take the position, humbly declining in favor of a stronger mind, like that of his close friend Qui-Gon Jinn. The Keldor did accept a mission that his former master was leading on the world of Trokeen. Acting as diplomatic representatives for the Republic, Plo and a band of Jedi, which included such notables as Qui-Gon Jinn and Adi Gallia, were to negotiate peace between the Trade Federation and the pirate Iako Stark. Though he presented himself as a legitimate businessman, Iako had been stealing Bacta supplies from cargo vessels and selling them at lower prices than the Trade Federation, which obviously didn't sit well with the organization. The Jedi believed an accord could be reached. However, some factions in the government, specifically those under the sway of the ruthless Ranulph Tarkin, wanted more decisive action, and as such they organized an attack on Stark's forces, which caused the negotiations to degenerate into a firefight. Repelling the pirates' onslaught, Koon watched in horror as his former master was gunned down in the crossfire, Iako using the opportunity presented by the attack to make his escape. Making their way back to their ship, the Wookiee issued his final orders. Gallia was to take the senators off-planet and seek a diplomatic solution. Jinn was to uncover the details of Stark's plans, and Koon was instructed to rally the various co-factions against Stark's onslaught. As his last wish, Tyvaka insisted that Koon take his seat on the High Council. The Keldor admitted that he did not want Tyvaka to die, but the Master scolded his former apprentice, reminding him of the 5th precept of the Jedi Code. There is no death, there is only the Force. With his dying breath, Tyvaka told Koon that he was proud of him. The Stark hyperspace war had begun. Taking his teacher's words to heart, Plo Koon took command of the mission. Crash landing on Trokeen, the forces would take refuge in Mount Avos. Inside the caves, a survey by Jace Dallin, Tarkin's aide and second-in-command, revealed that while the cave had plenty of water, the soldiers only had 10 days' worth of food, limited medical supplies, and no Bacta. Tarkin and Gunray opted for surrender, while Valorum and Koon favored a continued resistance. Koon was able, via his above-average telepathic skill, to gain access to Stark's mind while the Combine's co-directors were in meeting, all unhappy with the prospect of a prolonged battle. Stark assured them that the situation, while not what he had anticipated, was not a bad one. Tarkin's forces were trapped in Mount Avos. The Republic still had no Bacta, and by now the nav computer virus he had designed had spread throughout many of the Republic's ships, crippling interstellar commerce and transport. Anticipating a swift surrender of both Tarkin's forces and the Senate, Stark managed to convince his lieutenants to continue with the plan, and prepared for a frontal assault on the mountain. Koon heard this, however, and, armed with this knowledge, the Republic force was able to put up a stiff resistance. As the days wore on, the fighting became more intense, Plo Koon's tactical mind leading to a number of victories despite their lesser numbers. After yet another loss, Stark changed tactics, deciding to stop attacking and maintaining a siege in order to starve the Republic soldiers out. Koon again used his telepathy to learn of this strategy while tending to the wounded soldiers, an action that helped convince many, humans all chosen by Tarkin, who was steeped in human-centric prejudices, that there was no difference in compassion between aliens and humans. The war would finally come to an end following a multi-pronged assault devised by Plo and the famed Jedi tactician Oppo Rancisis. Qui-Gon and his then new apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi would apprehend Stark, the Republic would broker a deal with the Trade Federation to break the pirate blockade, and Koon would use the confusion to defeat the remaining forces within the caverns. At Mount Avos, the Republic force retreated out a back entrance while the Combine forces swarmed in from the front. Koon planned to seal both entrances once the Republic soldiers had evacuated, thus trapping the Combine soldiers harmlessly inside the mine. The plan failed, however, when, determined to kill off both the Jedi who had stolen his glory and the enemy he had been unable to vanquish, Tarkin stole the last detonator charge and used it to open a Chalat Eater cave to devour all the forces within the mountain, killing himself in the blast, while securing for himself a self-styled immortality as the hero of Trokin, the man who indeed destroyed the Stark Combine and won the war in one fell swoop of self-sacrifice. Plo managed to escape just in time, using the Force to seal the mine, unfortunately trapping the majority of the Combine soldiers inside the insect-infested mine, where they were eaten alive. As the Jedi made his way out, the few surviving ground forces of the Combine surrendered, ending the conflict once and for all. Returning to Coruscant, Plo Koon was promoted to the rank of Jedi Master and was given a lifetime seat on the Jedi High Council in honor of his master's dying wish. Though initially uncertain about his place on the council, as the years went on, Plo became very accustomed to the position. His compassion was greatly prized by his fellow counselors, as was his tendency to make snap decisions by viewing issues in black and white. Both traits would be put on full display during 33 BBY, a year that would begin with happiness, but end in tragedy. During a mission to Shalai, Plo would discover a youngling, a Force-sensitive Togruta named Ahsoka Tano. Taking her to the temple for training, the Keldor kept an eye on her progression through the academy, nicknaming her Little Soka and maintaining a close bond with her that would last until both became one with the Force. During that same year, the Jedi Order became embroiled into what would become known as the Yin Chori Crisis, which was a multi-system uprising spearheaded by the powerful reptilian race known as the Yin Chori that had been secretly instigated by the Sith. Fighting alongside his close friend and fellow council member Micah Giat, Plo would repel Yin Chori forces on multiple worlds both physically and through the Force. Though the Jedi ultimately emerged victorious, Koon suffered another devastating loss when Master Giat was gunned down by a sniper, then lost his life by sacrificing himself to buy the Keldor and his allies time to escape. In honor of his fallen friend, Plo took Micah's then Padawan Boltar Swan under his wing and trained her to blend her unique Terras Kaze and Viridian sleighting hand styles with a strong lightsaber defense, eventually seeing her to the completion of her trials and her ascension to the rank of Jedi Knight. 1 year later, Koon would sit in on the Council's evaluation of Anakin Skywalker after Qui-Gon Jinn brought him to the temple. Though he said little in these proceedings, the Keldor ultimately acquiesced to the body's ruling to train the young boy after Jinn lost his life at the hands of the Sith apprentice Darth Maul on Naboo, another friend of Plo's coming to a tragic end. As the years went on and the Republic continued to slide into decay, Plo Koon continued to perform his duties, both physical and diplomatic, to the best of his ability. Shortly after the Battle of Naboo, the Keldor would travel with fellow council masters Mace Windu, Yaddle, Evan Peel, Adi Gallia, Ki-Adi Mundi, and Mundi's then Padawan Asherad Het to the world of Malastare to negotiate a truce between the Lannic royals and a terrorist group known as the Red Iroh. During a lull in the mission, the Master gave Asherad Het some advice on how he could spend time by looking at the artwork that was all around them. In essence, advising the young Tusken to have his thoughts be piloted by the acknowledgement of the subtle beauties around them rather than the possibility of violence. Sadly, the Keldor's wisdom would be ill-timed, as shortly after the first round of negotiations, the Red Iroh attempted to assassinate the Lannic prince as well as the Jedi. Working together, the Council Masters were able to subdue the terrorists and save the prince, though any hope for a peaceful Lannic was lost. Some years later, a similar, but thankfully less violent diplomatic incident took place at the heart of the Jedi Temple when a group calling themselves the People's Inquest, very creative, held an open protest outside the Jedi Temple in an effort to force the Jedi Order to be more accountable to the government. Plo headed the Jedi's rebuttal and was ultimately forced to defend the temple from the group by persuading the group to disperse after a minor incident in the public atrium. In 22 BBY, after Count Dooku revealed himself as the leader of the newly minted Confederacy of Independent Systems, Plo Koon was one of over 200 Jedi that accompanied Mace Windu to rescue Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and Senator Padme Amidala from execution on Geonosis. Once again fighting alongside Ki-Adi Mundi, the pair attempted to raid a nearby droid control ship that appeared to control all of the droids on the planet. Unfortunately for them, the CIS had a backup control device, and Koon and Mundi were captured. They were marched to the execution arena where the surviving Jedi awaited a seemingly imminent death. Plo stood ready to die with his allies when several Latu gunships dropped from the sky, piloted by the newly formed clone army of the Republic. Koon boarded a ship alongside Masters Stas Ali, Aegon Kohler, Shakti, Luminara Unduli, Saisi Tin, and Roth Del Masona. Landing on the desert plains near the Trade Federation starships, Koon helped lead the Grand Army against the remaining Separatist droid army during what would become known as the opening battle of the Clone Wars. Taking up the mantle of a Jedi general, Plo Koon was assigned to lead clone troopers on many important fronts throughout the war. Due to his extraordinary tactical mind, as well as his notable piloting skills, Koon was often assigned to either an overhead commander or starship fighter pilot role, though this by no means made him ineffectual on the front lines, and he was often quite willing to get down and dirty when the situation called for it. After information leaked regarding a massive CIS stronghold on the Akrit world of Brental 4, Plo, alongside Shakti and Aegon Kohler, led an all-out assault on the planet. As Shak and Aegon commanded forces on the ground, Koon commanded from on high, directing the flow of battle and methodically dismantling the enemy's forces. Though the battle was won, the effort would have a profound effect on Shakti, who, during a trip into the CIS stronghold, would come face to face with the criminal Lai Sha, the murderer of her former Padawan. Sensing his friend's conflict of mind, the Keldor would enter Shak's quarters during their trip home and meditate with her in an effort to clear her psyche. Following his mission to Brental 4, Plo Koon would cross paths with Jedi Master Kit Fisto during a prison riot on the aquatic planet of Minbari. As the two masters rounded up their inquiries, they engaged in a rather heated moral debate. Koon saw little reason to pull his punches with the prisoners, citing their past actions as criminals as condemning enough. Fisto took a more compassionate stance, believing that second chances were admirable and that no one deserved to be bereft of them. Before more discussion could be had, the Jedi were ambushed by the powerful Jedi bounty hunter Dirge. After temporarily sealing Dirge in the catacombs beneath the prison with the help of one of the inmates, the Jedi bargained with their newfound comrade. For his cooperation in helping end the riots, the Jedi would petition for his early release, and the lessening of the sentences of the prisoners who accommodated the Jedi. Shortly thereafter, Koon would be assigned to the position of chief negotiator during the Battle of Rendil, where he would monitor over Masters Saisi Tin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the newly knighted Anakin Skywalker. As his commands worked in the field to stabilize the Republic ships, Koon was joined on the bridge by Captain Jam Dodonna as he boarded a Rendil dreadnought to open peace talks with his old comrade Jace Dahlin. During the negotiations, Lieutenant Melor Yago of the Rendil Home Defense Fleet arrived along with a security force to take command, placing Dahlin, Koon, and Dodonna under arrest. Because Yago was planning to turn the Republic fleet over to the Separatists, Master Tin was prepared to open fire on all of the dreadnoughts to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. However, Jedi Skywalker was able to lead a crippling attack against the fleet, until Masters Kenobi and the uncovered Voss could rescue the captive Republic officers and Jedi and kill Yago and his men, taking the ships for the Republic and securing Rendil. In 21 BBY, Plo Koon would lead a patrol fleet of 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers to uncover an unknown Separatist superweapon that had killed many fleets of cruisers and left no survivors. While the Keldor was initially unsuccessful in his quest, he would eventually come face to face with the Malevolence, commanded by General Grievous, as the powerful ship wiped out his patrol fleet, leaving the Keldor, Commander Wolf, Sergeant Snicker, and Boost trapped in an escape pod. Thanks to a combination of his Keldor heritage and the clone's pressurized armor, Koon and the survivors were able to hold off the pod hunter that destroyed all the other pods, and were picked up by Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano in the twilight, after Tano, drawing on her close friendship with Master Koon, was able to sense his life force amongst the debris. After being rescued, the group managed to evade away from the deadly ion cannons of the Malevolence, and Koon united with Skywalker's fleet and prepared the counterattack on the Separatists' warship. It was during this event that Koon was given the Blade of Doran, a Delta 7B starfighter, a gift from Jedi Skywalker. As Anakin led his starship squadron through the dangerous Balmorra run of the Kalig Nebula, Koon realized too late the peril they were in, as a flock of Nibre mantises posed a threat to their ships. Losing several starfighters, the group made it out and arrived at their destination ahead of the Malevolence. Losing half their squadron to the ship's ion cannon, Koon and Tano were able to persuade a stubborn Skywalker into attacking the ship's ion cannon, causing it to misfire and destroy itself, leaving the endangered medical center in the clear. As reinforcements arrived, Koon met up with the Republic ships and watched as the Malevolence was eventually destroyed. As the war raged on, Plo's next trial would involve an intense engagement on the icy plains of the planet Korm. Once more teamed with Master Fisto, the two would work tirelessly to free the enslaved Kormai people from the invading Separatists and their battle droids. Fighting alongside Kormai resistant forces, Koon was reluctant to sacrifice the clones in a direct assault on a vital strategic mine, and therefore decided to destroy the weather control station to lessen the amount of casualties. On their way up to the weather control station, Count Dooku's dark acolyte, Asajj Ventress, ambushed Koon and brought down an avalanche on top of him, wounding Koon and breaking his left arm. Despite his injury, Koon still maintained a willingness to continue the mission, and eventually faced off against Ventress again inside the mine. The duel between them was spectacular, both combatants giving everything they had to overcome the other. Ultimately, despite fighting only with his right arm, Koon was able to withstand Ventress's dark side attacks, and prevented the Dark Jedi from destroying the mine by force-pushing her detonator away, destroying it. As Ventress made her escape, the two masters regrouped and fought off the invading battle droids, therein by liberating Korm from the CIS, letting them live free of fear once again. Years passed, and Plo Koon would continue to serve on the battlefield in whatever role was required of him. Most notable amongst his accomplishments in the conflict's latter period was his service in the Second Battle of Felucia, the assault on Kadavo, and the liberation of 4C. However, It would be the year 19 BBY that would see some of the most critical events in the Keldor's life, yet also tragically his end. After Ahsoka Tano was framed by the dejected Jedi Knight Barriss Offee in the bombing of the Jedi Temple, Koon was one of 5 Jedi, along with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Mace Windu, and Yoda, who made the decision to expel Tano from the Order. Though the Keldor was troubled greatly by this turn of events, his sense of duty overcame his personal bias, and he sided with his fellow masters in her expulsion. Shortly thereafter, Koon attended Tano's trial in front of a military tribunal, where the charges against her were ultimately dropped after Barriss Offee confessed that she was the actual mastermind behind the bombing. Afterwards, Koon and several other Jedi Masters apologized to Tano for not trusting her, and offered to accept her back into the Order. But Tano, having felt that the Jedi betrayed her trust, chose not to rejoin. For now. After leading a short campaign on Baz Pity, Koon returned to Coruscant in order to complete some of his duties on the High Council. During this time, the skies of Galactic City were filled with Separatist fighters and warships as a sneak attack on the capital fell into full swing. Taking to the skies during the fighting, Koon provided leadership in Coruscant's orbit as Anakin and Obi-Wan rescued the captured Supreme Chancellor and killed Count Dooku. After the fires of Coruscant subsided, Koon was assigned to lead a campaign on Cato Nemoidia, charged with maintaining control of the Nemoidian purse world while the Republic forces drove out the last remnants of the Separatists' droid army. Weeks later, Plo would sit in on several council meetings via hologram revolving around the Jedi's plan to capture Darth Sidious. Though he said little in these proceedings, the Keldor would acquiesce to the Council's decision to remove Palpatine from office following the destruction of General Grievous, as well as denying mastery to Skywalker on the basis of his emotional instability. On the eve of the Jedi's confrontation with Palpatine, the Chancellor revealed his identity as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, and after a titanic struggle in the Chancellor's office, killed various Council Masters, including Plo's close friends Mace and Kit, and succeeded in turning Anakin to the dark side of the Force, renaming him Darth Vader. As his new apprentice led a charge on the Jedi Temple, Sidious would send word out to all clone commanders to execute the Contingency Order 66. Unaware of the danger he was in, Koon's craft was struck by a volley of laser fire as his clone escorts opened fire on their newly assigned target. His starboard wing in flames, the craft's engine exploded, consuming the Keldor's body and forcing the craft into a spinning crash into a nearby structure. Jedi Master Plo Koon was dead. Alright guys, now that we've finished sharing Plo Koon's story, let's end off with some fun facts about the character. Plo Koon wears what is known as an anti-ox breathing mask over his eyes and mouth. Due to Doran having a unique atmosphere composed of helium and a gas unique to the world, Plo, like all Keldors, is forced to wear these masks and protective goggles whenever in an atmosphere of a different composition. This equipment protects him from carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and oxygen, which are quite lethal to a Keldor. The breathing mask also helped to amplify his species' voice, as they were forced to shout to produce any sound when out of their native atmosphere. Without his protective goggles, Koon is basically blind, though blindness to a Jedi isn't really blindness at all. The Jedi Master is also able to survive in a vacuum of space for a short time, though it is unknown exactly how long he can withstand it. While directors, artists, and animators are usually pretty consistent with keeping Plo's mask on in oxygen-rich environments, there is one instance in the short comic Practice Makes Perfect, written by Jason Hall and published in 2002, where he's literally just standing next to Mace Windu on Coruscant, unmasked, like it's no big deal. Incidentally, this is actually the first time the character has ever been shown unmasked in the entire franchise, though the first time in, shall we say, sensible canon was in the comic Purge: Seconds to Die, written by John Ostrander and published on November 11th, 2009. Over the course of the prequel trilogy, Plo Koon is played by 2 actors. In Phantom Menace, he is played by Alan Russo, who some of you may recognize as the lead Uton in the Doctor Who episode Rose, and in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, he is played by Matt Sloan, who some of you may recognize as the lead animatronics technician for both films. One of the longest-running jokes in the Star Wars fandom in regards to Plo Koon is that the character never spoke a single line while on screen or in early animations, yet is actually something of a windbag in the comics. While many fans and even a few official sources credit his appearances in TCW, where he is voiced by James Arnold Taylor, as the first time Plo has ever spoken on screen, this isn't technically true, as the actual first instance of the character speaking on screen came in the video game Jedi Power Battles released in April of 2000, where he is voiced by Greg Berger. Plo Koon has long been noted as a fan-favorite character for TCW showrunner Dave Filoni. As seen by the extras for the Star Wars The Clone Wars DVD, he has a bust of Plo Koon's head, a model of Plo Koon's ship, an autographed portrait by the actor who played Plo Koon, a replica of Plo Koon's lightsaber on his desk, and his personal Plo Koon costume on display, which he wore to the opening of Revenge of the Sith. God, what a nerd. Finally, while Plo Koon's lightsaber color is officially canonized as blue, the character has wielded a total of 4 different hues over the course of his creation. In the films and TCW, he wields a blue blade. His original toy, along with Jedi Power Battles and the comic Emissaries and Assassins, depict him wielding a yellow blade. In various early Republic comic arcs, such as the Stark Hyperspace War and the Yinchoi Uprising, he has drawn with an orange blade. And finally, in the Star Wars Republic Dreadnoughts of Rendil arc, he is shown utilizing a green blade. Personally, I think orange suits him best. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this exploration into the story of Plo Koon. As always, please leave your thoughts and questions in the comments section below. May the Force be with you, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later.